Hi everybody, this is TJ with NetPicks.com and the Trend Jumper Trading Strategy. It was a real banner day today in the markets, a great way to start November. Winners across the board. I wanted to do a quick video walkthrough and show you some of the trades we were taking today. We trade the Russell E-mini every day. We use a 377 tick chart. We start at 9:32 Eastern, and let's just walk through this chart and I'll show you exactly what happened. There was an earlier trade from this morning, and this happened before we start, so I just kind of ignore that, and I'm looking for the next setup, and there it is. It's a crossover trade, and it gets in at 819.9. Now I'm typically making a small adjustment over the key level of 820, so this trade hit up against the entry, came off a little bit, but then a couple bars later it did pop through. And so this trade was filled right there. Now in some trades I'm going to go to the third target, and on others I'm going to go to the middle target, and it really depends on the size of the trade. So typically I'm looking to at least get 13 ticks to that third target, and this one was going to 821.6, so definitely large enough to want to exit at that second target. You can see my stop is right here beneath my setup bar, giving me a pretty nice risk-reward ratio. And I'm going to go in with two positions. You don't have to. You could go in with one position or two. If you go in with two, you just trail the second position once you achieve that first target objective. It did come down a little bit. You could always expect some sort of a pullback, but look where the stop is. It's right here. So you just got to let these trades play out, and you could see that it ultimately made another swing to the upside and hit its target right here. As a matter of fact, you have the option to add to your position. This is a very small trade. There's a special way of handling a trade like this, but for the sake of this video and the walkthroughs that I'm typically doing, I'm going to point out the add-on trades, but we're not going to officially track them at this point. But they are some really nice opportunities to extend your gains. So this trade is continuing upwards, and we're trailing what's called the jump line, this dotted green line. And so that trailer works its way up to 821.9. And again, another possible add-on trade. And that one also is going to pop up and be a nice winner. We're still trailing. By the time we get to this bar here, our trailer has moved up to 823.3. So all the way up to here. And then finally, it stops out, 823.3. So if you're just looking for one good winning trade, there it is, first trade of the day. And that trade grabbed a nifty 4.7 points, which is $470 for the two positions. 14 ticks to here because of our adjustment, and another 33 ticks. So I typically want to get two winners on the Russell, and the next trade comes a little while longer. Again, another crossover trade. It's a much smaller trade. The trend jumper adjusting to market conditions. You could see how much larger that first one was. So in this trade, we are going to go to the third target from 825.4 to 826.4. And I've got a swing level at 0.4. So I'm going to push that up to 825.5. And that one has no problem. And it bursts through and jumps to that full target. And that got me another 9 ticks, $90. And quite often I'll even adjust it up to the 0.6, but because it was already breaking over a swing level and it was such a small trade, every tick is 10% of my profit objective, and for that reason the 1 tick adjustment was sufficient. Meanwhile, I'm still trailing the jump line on the second trade, and it comes all the way up to 825, and let's see, you can see it's at 825.8, and that's going to have me putting my stop at 825.4. And after 825.4, with this bar closing above again, I need to look at my jump line again, and it's at 826. So I always want to go 2 ticks below the jump line and then adjust around zeros and fives if I'm near those. So my stop would go up to 825.8 right here. And then, of course, you can see it comes down and gets out of that trade. And that trade made only 3 ticks. And I should say the second half of that trade. The first half made 9 ticks. But all in all, 2 trades, 2 winners, 5.9 points in total for $590. I like to go in with stop limit orders, so I typically minimize my slippage. And my slippage, if I get any at all, will probably come on my exits. And that's usually when I stop out for a loss, not necessarily when I come out at my target. So all in all, very clean session. Let's take a look at some other markets. Here's a look at the S&P E-mini with the 2000 tick chart. This is a very clean chart. And 8:30 is when this market opens central. I like to wait a couple minutes, so 8:32. I mean, you could get in right at 8:30, I suppose. This first setup comes at 8:23, though. The first setup actually is at 8:32, and the entry is at 1411.5. Of course, you have to allow for an extra tick to get triggered in. That happens. Sometimes you'll get filled right at your entry. Other times you have to give up a tick. That's one of the challenges of trading a market like the S&P. You kind of have to wait in line, and you got that quarter point tick. And so there's that built-in spread, and you don't always get filled on your entry. You have to give up a tick. But it's worth it because it has no problem getting to its targets. Quite often you're going to find some pretty easy winners. The stop is down here. You have to be patient. Give it a chance to work. Going to go to that third target, and it ultimately pops on through. Again, you have to trade through the target, and you need to have a plan on what to do when it hits the target and you don't get filled. Assuming you got filled at target, it was a really nice trade. 1411.75, say, to 1415. Nice 3.5 points, but meanwhile we're trailing the jump line with a second position or even more. I mean, you could come off with one position at the middle target, one position at the third target, trail a third. Different ways to trade it. You can even add to your position right here. Of course, like I said, with these walkthroughs, I'm going to point the add-ons out, but what we're doing is trailing that jump line. And so ultimately we keep trailing it up, still in there. And right here, got to look at the last bar to close above the jump line. So that's this bar, and then it ultimately closes again above it to here, and it's going to stop out at 1418 even on this green bar. And that's it. One and done. One trade, 10 points, $500 with 2 positions. So just like the S&P and the Russell, if they're making money, you best believe that the Dow E-mini is also making money. That's usually the case. It's a slightly different cadence and rhythm. This is a 377 tick chart. Definitely a nice chart to trade. We have to wait a bit because the first setup actually doesn't come until 8:49. And I want to get 18 points to that middle target. If it's anything smaller, I'll go to the third target. And this goes from 13,126. The middle target's only 14 points away. That tells me I'm going to the third target. And there's no problem getting there. That's 20 points. That's $100 per contract. Meanwhile, here's our stop. And once we get up to that second target, we're going to trail the jump line, which starts cutting risk. And we're also going to lock in a tick once we get that full target. It just keeps going up just like we saw in the other markets. And it ultimately is going to stop out. Let's see, I'm going to push that stop to 13,164, and it gets down to 13,164, and that's where that one stops out. And that was a nice trade. The 2 positions combined made a nifty 57 points, $285 at $5 a point, and again, one and done. Trend Jumper is going to give you one and done on a lot of markets on a steady basis. It's a great way to be diversified, to minimize your risk in the market, and to make steady gains. That's what it's all about. How about the NASDAQ E-mini? The NASDAQ E-mini is a different cadence altogether, kind of dances to its own rhythm, and I also use a different time frame, a 610 tick chart on the NASDAQ. You could use other time frames. This one seems to be pretty steady, works well. I want 4 points to the middle target, otherwise I'm going to the third target. $20 a point, $5 a tick. The entry is 26.57. You can see that the second target is not 4 points. Doesn't go far enough for me to really mess with moving my stop, and so it's going to actually come down and stop me out. You can see an add-on trade there too would be a loss, but I'm not taking add-ons for the sake of these demonstrations. So one trade, one loss, so we have to keep going. Get another trade right here, and that one gets in at 26.59 and a quarter. Again, the second target is not 4 points away, but the third target is, and that's the one we're going to try to achieve, and it ultimately gets there. Another add-on trade, and the add-on trade is going to be successful, and so is the next one and the next several. But we're not adding, we're just trailing, and we're trailing up the jump line. Ultimately, these stops hold because it's always the last bar to close above and then 2 ticks below. And so this stop actually goes all the way up to here where it finally stops out. So factoring in a small loss, a 4-point gain to the middle target, and a really large runner, the results on this trade are actually quite good. The NASDAQ picks up about 13 points or so. Have to work it out, but I think that's what I came up with when I was going through this earlier today. About 13 points. So the trend jumper hitting on all cylinders, and there were some profits on some other markets as well. Crude oil, of course, is one of our mainstays. We show it a lot. It's a great trading market, and it was choppy today, but it ultimately worked itself out and ended up netting about 18 ticks. So, you know, marginally successful. It definitely was profitable. Natural gas, this is a market that is often overlooked. Starting at 9 a.m. New York time. This is a 377 tick chart. There are other time frames at work as well. By the time 9 a.m. came, this trade had already triggered in and it had reached its first target, so we're not going to try to chase that one. Luckily, we get another setup, and that's the one we're interested in, and that goes from 3.696 to the third target, 3.678. And that's a great trade, 142 ticks. And again, one and done. And if you're trailing all the way down to here. Same technique. It basically stops out right in here. So nice winner on natural gas. And here's a market you may not have thought of. Unleaded futures using a 33 tick momentum bar. Yeah, Trend Jumper works on range and momentum bars quite nicely. Again, starting at 9 a.m. First trade is this one. However, we always want to adjust around key levels, and when you have that 200 EMA right there, you make a small adjustment around it, and you avoid getting triggered into a bad trade. It's very important to make those little adjustments. The next trade is a long trade. It bounces off the 200 EMA, and we get a nice trade to the upside. Has no problem hitting its full target, and of course trailing up to here. And that's where it would stop out. There are a lot more trades. In fact, more winners. But again, sticking to our power of quitting one winner and a positive result, and we're done for the session. And that gives us a really nice result on a variety of markets. In this case, 142 ticks on unleaded gas futures. Seems like everything I looked at was profitable today. I want to leave you with something completely different. It's a 20-tick momentum bar with heating oil futures. Start at 9. There's the short right there. No problem hitting its target. Nice add-on if you're interested. Trails all the way down. Quick and easy, beautiful trade. That trade finishes within 12 minutes. It's one of the things I love about the Trend Jumper. And it grabs 62 ticks in heating oil futures. Copper futures did well. Even the currency futures, British pound, euro. Today was just a winning day on everything. And that's it for now. That's a good look at the Trend Jumper. A lot of different markets, some great day trading opportunities, a lot of chances to be one and done with some great diversification on a variety of markets. Come back and check in again. I'm going to be posting something brand new tomorrow as well. Thanks for joining me, everybody. This is TJ with NetPicks.com and the Trend Jumper Trading System. See you next time.